Oh my goodness, I've just come out the front to check on the watering and I've been stopped in my tracks by the phlox. This was just what I wanted. The phlox is now long enough to start tumbling, or tall enough to start tumbling over the wall, disguising the new brick wall here. And you can see, look how tall the stems are now. They're absolutely massive. So they're plenty tall enough to go into bouquets. You can see the stems, look, they're really thick, really sturdy. Absolutely beautiful. You could stake them if you wanted to, but I never do, because I think that there's plenty of tall, straight stems in here to select if I want to. But a bit of a bend and a curve in your bouquets, right at the end, you just add them right at the end, is actually a lot more useful. You get the best of both worlds. All the information for sowing and growing phlox, look at those, aren't they beautiful, so exciting, is in your Spring Grow Along Handbook. I've escaped to the greenhouse and I'm thinking I will sow some lovely phlox today. Phlox is one of the few seedlings that actually needs dark to germinate. It also benefits from a bit of warmth to get the germination going, so you can absolutely do this one on your heated floor in your house if you want to. Now these seed trays are looking a little bit dry, the compost rather is looking a bit dry because it's been neglected while I've been working. So I'm going to soak it in a tray of water, probably for about half an hour. I'll keep an eye on it, and when I can see the cells are glistening on the top, I know it's ready for sowing seeds. It's not quite fully hydrated yet, but I thought you'd be interested to see. So this is what we're looking for, the nice dark tones, and that tells you the compost is moist. And these ones are still a bit dry, but it'll literally be a few more minutes. Now I can feel by the weight of this tray that it's properly hydrated now, and you can see it's glistening on the surface. Perfect for sowing. Now I'm going to start by sowing one seed per cell onto the surface of the compost. If you want to put two in per cell, just here, can you see? Just pop them in opposite corners, and if they both germinate, you can just take the weaker one of the two out. Here's one I did earlier, and can you see how much bigger and happier the seedlings are for having their own space? Now, because phlox needs dark to germinate, I'm going to sift a layer of compost over the top of the tray. I like to do, it's much easier, I put my label in, is I like to use a gravel tray. So this is the same as a seed tray, but can you see it's got no holes, which means if you put it over the top of your phlox like that, no light can get in at all, and I find this works very well for me. Popping mine on the heat mat because they do like a little bit of warmth for germination, but you could just as easily germinate them in your kitchen. Just check on my little seedlings, and here they are. Look, we have success. So that's taken exactly 1 week. You can see I've removed the lid, but because we've sifted compost over the top, those that are yet to germinate are still benefiting from the darkness, while those that have popped up are able to bask in the sunshine. So next I'm going to sow the Blushing Bride because I absolutely love these. And they look amazing in a pot with Senior's Hope. Do you remember? So while I sow these, I'm going to run you a video. This is a huge pot, so I'm going to take out a good deal of the compost and replace it with fresh. You don't need to go all the way to the bottom, just to the depth that the plants you're going to put in here will actually get to. Right, now time to fill the container up with some fresh. So this is my third wheelbarrow. So I think I might have burnt my dinner tonight and a glass of wine, those calories I've burnt. So I'm just filling the pot up. I'll just do the top inch with some shop bought just to stop any weeds. And I've got two 80 centimetre dahlias, so shorter dahlias, and I've given them half the pot each. Show you, this is what we took out. So there's absolutely no life left in this, it's just dust. And then we're replacing it with homemade compost, which is rich, crumbly, and is holding onto the moisture. Look at that. Beautiful. So soil might not be the most exciting thing in the world. You can't expect your garden to thrive without a really good foundation. Everything starts with the soil. I'm just putting in a mix of phlox as ground cover and to tumble over the sides. I think it's going to look smashing. This is the pot that we just planted up. So that's going to look smashing in a couple of weeks' time. And I won't have to touch it now until the first frosts, which is a relief. I am absolutely thrilled to bits with this. This is Dahlia Senior's Hope, and I've underplanted it with phlox. I couldn't decide whether Cherry Caramel or the Blushing Bride would look better, so I did a mix, and I'm so glad I did, because I think the different colours and textures are really working in this pot. So I'm going to try and get a really good image for it so that I can remind you later, and then if you want to recreate this, you'll be able to get the dahlias and the seeds from us in the spring. There you go, that's all sown. So I am going to put mine on my heat mat in my greenhouse with the cover over the top, and I'll make sure I check it on a daily basis. I'll keep reminding you on stories so you don't forget to check yours. It's vital we get the lid off the minute germination occurs so we can get those auxin levels down and stop the seeds from turning into leggy linders. Go, and I'm going to set them both on a heat mat for speedy germination because I am impatient. You're going to love this. I've done a little trial for you. So, number one important is the phlox is germinated in the dark with just a layer of compost. Then it can go into a cold greenhouse. Germination will just take longer. Or if you want it a bit quicker, take your tray up to the house. You don't need to put it on a heat mat in the house, or certainly not. I've heard a few people put them in the airing cupboard. Don't do that. It's probably way too hot in there. Don't do that, and you'll forget. I did that when I first started gardening. I had, I think it was peas, sweet peas I was doing, and they were like 10 foot tall, and I remembered. So don't do that. There's no need. So warm windowsill indoors. So that's the second quickest, and the quickest is a heat mat, but really only bother with that if you're going to be germinating in the greenhouse. And I have done one of each, so you can see the difference. Okay, so this one is in the greenhouse but on a heat mat, and the germination is very rapid, and you can see that we've got quite good little seedlings already. Now this pot here was just germinated on the windowsill in the kitchen. So it's had a layer of compost over the top, no tray for darkness, just the compost, and that was just on the shelf in the kitchen. And then this final tray, which does have germination, you can see it's just so much slower, is just in a cold greenhouse. So you can just put them in your zippy and they will germinate. They will just take a little bit longer. The reason the kitchen one is in a pot is just for space, because I didn't have room for a tray, but I wanted to be able to give you the exact difference in timing, because I know, especially when you're new to gardening, sometimes you just need a little bit of reassurance. So I'll take a quick picture of each now and put them up on the screen for you. If you sowed your phlox with me, then you might want to go and check your trays. Look at this, get them into the light. This is day 5. Just checking on the phlox. So can you see, because of the thick layer of compost keeping the light out, we're continuing to get steady germination, and everybody that's already up and out of bed has got adequate light and is basking and not getting leggy. By contrast, I've got a tray of phlox. I've got both varieties in the same tray here. It's not been on a heat mat. It does feel quite warm in here, and I think that's because the lid is black and that's radiating the sun's rays. The germination is slower, but they are coming along nicely now. So if you haven't got heat mat, you can still get adequate germination. It just will take a little bit longer. Look at the phlox. They look great. Now, I just want to have a quick chat with you about the phlox. You don't need to pinch the phlox. You can see that it's starting to naturally branch anyway. Now, what happens with phlox is it will flower quite soon. So the flower will just be here, let it flower, and then once that stem flowers, another side shoot, you can just see it emerging here, will start growing, and then that will flower. And then what we do is we just pinch the flower off, and then it grows, and then we pinch the flower off, and then it grows, and then we pinch the flower off until we get a stem that is tall enough for us to use, and then you snip it down, or to here, wherever you need to, and then it regrows. So you pinch the flowers off, you don't pinch the plants because they aren't the tallest, but they are plenty tall enough for a bouquet. But we'll do it together, I will show you. So these are the phlox. Can you see how robust they are? After a nice, long, cool growing period, they're actually standing up in the trays all by themselves. When you plant them, you can plant them in your flower bed and you can give them some support if you want to keep long, straight stems. However, when I tuck them into bouquets, it doesn't actually matter. It's usually the last thing I add, and it doesn't actually matter. So I'm going to put them into a container and just let them cascade, and then just select the straightest stems when I want to do some flower arranging. But it's up to you. This wheelbarrow is full of phlox, and it's available in the January seed shop. Isn't it incredible? Look, you can see, if you just scoot in there, can you see how big each of the plants are now? It's incredible to think they were so tiny at the beginning of the season. So I've had a bit of a tidy up, and I've got a great big bunch of stems of varying lengths. So do you know what? We're going to make an arrangement, but only using phlox, just the one flower, and I'll show you how magical it can be. Now, it can be tempting to position everything towards the front, but just look at this blank space at the back there, and just position it slightly bit higher. Can you see how much better that looks? More natural. And there we go, the finished article. Super simple and beautifully fragrant. It's not as strong as the stocks, but it does have a little sweet scent to it. Remember, a few weeks ago we pruned these phlox plants. They were looking really sad and a bit tired, and we gave them a good old cut back, and now they've rebloomed and are looking better than ever.